Welcome to this gathering. Welcome to each and every one of you. We're all part of this circle this morning, and no matter who we are or what our week has been like, no matter whether we've been here many times or this is our first, we're welcome here. This is a safe place for all of us to gather. And we come here to give time and space to honor our living. We're here for many reasons, of course. To share gratitude for this life, for this earth, for this land, for all who've come before, and our gentle inhabitation as we borrow it from all those who will come after. We open ourselves to awareness, to connect with each other, to celebrate for a time, to be present with one another in our gratitude and in our seeking for all that is and the oneness of life. As we do come here, we seek to be fully with each other, fully present for one another and for ourselves. And so we join in song to bring our hearts, our minds, our spirits to this place. We light this candle as we do each and every time we gather, and we let it remind us of the stars that burn, that remind us of our cosmic beginnings. We let it remind us as it sits on our table of the spark that dwells within each of us, that reminds us of our relatedness and our connection to one another. As it burns on our table as we gather, we light it for the ordinariness of that flame that reminds us of our continuing awareness of the sacredness of the ordinary, the specialness, the blessing of all. And so as we ponder the light in us all that gathers us, that unites us, that reminds us, we seek to be present. Let's join together in these words as we commit to this prayer as a call to awareness.
Luke 9:57 to 62. As they were going along the road, someone said to Jesus, "I will follow you wherever you go." But Jesus was curt with him. "Are you ready to rough it? We're not staying in the best inns, you know." To another he said, "Follow me." And that one said, "Yes, but first let me go and make arrangements for my father's funeral." Jesus replied, "First things first. Your business is life, not death. And life is urgent. Let's go." Another said, "I will follow you, Master, but let me first say farewell to those at my home." Jesus said to him, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is well placed for the work of spiritual living." These are the words passed down to us from the Jesus tradition. May we find wisdom for our living.
Share with you a poem entitled "The Dance" by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. Tell me a story of who you are, and see who I am in the stories I am living. And together we will remember that each of us always has a choice. Don't tell me how wonderful things will be someday. Show me you can risk being completely at peace, truly okay with the way things are right now. And again in the next moment, and the next, and the next. I've heard enough warrior stories of heroic daring. Tell me how you crumble when you hit the wall. The place you cannot go beyond by the strength of your own will. What carries you to the other side of that wall? To the fragile beauty of your own humanness. Take me to the places on the earth that teach you how to dance, the places where you can risk letting the world break your heart. And I will take you to the places where the earth beneath my feet and the stars overhead make my heart whole again and again. Show me how you offer to your people and the world the stories and the songs you want our children's children to remember. And I will show you how I struggle not to change the world, but to love it. Sit beside me in long moments of shared solitude, knowing both our absolute aloneness and our undeniable belonging. Dance with me in the silence and in the sound of small daily words, holding neither against me at the end of the day. And when the sound of all the declarations of our sincerest intentions has died away on the wind, dance with me in the infinite pause before the next great inhale of the breath that is breathing us all into being, not filling the emptiness from the outside or from within. Don't say yes. Just take my hand and dance with me. These are the words of a contemporary poet. We find wisdom for our living. as a musician, and there are a few in the room, and a few more that are undercover. Those of you know that one of the hardest parts of learning a new piece of music, beyond all the dots and squiggles on the page, is that stage of knowing the notes well enough to look away from them, but not well enough to find your way back to them when your eyeballs get back there. It's one thing to read all the notes on a page and play them, but that window of time when you can feel like you can look away but not quite, that's when everything falls to pieces. Because every look away from the page is a risk at that stage. It's easy to hold on to the dots as a way to make sure you do everything as you should. But memorizing music, like many things, is really hard to force. It's hard to make it happen. It's a product of understanding what's going on in the music and the structure. It's a lot of intellectual stuff, but it's combined with muscle memory so that your body just knows what to do when. Your fingers knowing what to do from having done it so many times. Willing yourself to know something doesn't necessarily make it so. Telling yourself, just play it, Chris, doesn't mean your brain and fingers communicate the way that you'd like them to. And yet, every once in a while, you can sit down and let the music take you somewhere. When I let go of thinking about it too hard, no more theory, no more fussing about the fingering, the phrasing, and stressing about what's next, when I can just let it happen, the music starts to flow, and it's a beautiful thing. I wish it happened more often. It's a bit crazy, the frustrations we bring ourselves to for something that should appear effortless. And I'm hoping that it's not a bad metaphor, this music metaphor, for our search for a sense of peace, a sense of spiritual oneness in life. I think perhaps some of the same axioms are true. The harder we seek it, the harder we search for it, the harder we grasp for it, the more elusive it might be. It's not so much that we seek this sense of oneness and peace as a blank slate or with empty hands from scratch either. We come at it with all those things we heard as we prayed this morning, those things that are on our minds and hearts. We come at it full and chock-a-block of busyness and thoughts and distractions. It's the contention of spiritual leaders and traditions across time that much of what lies in the way of us achieving that much sought peace is what stands in our way is what we're already holding. If inner peace is what we're after, then, and it eludes us, then what is on our insides that is causing us not to be able to seek it as we'd like? It's our grasping, our holding on that challenges us all as a sidetrack. Now, if you're like me, your mind and heart fall into a pattern of seeking out the interesting, the pleasant, the stimulating. And if you're like me, you cling to each object until it loses its appeal and is discarded by the mind as it seeks out something new. So first, we want to read a book, but after a while it becomes not so interesting because we can't get past chapter 4. And so the thought of watching a movie comes to mind. We flick channels on the TV till we stumble across something that entertains us. But then this is boring or we can't find anything. Well, how about we make something to eat? That will surely keep us busy for a while. Not really hungry, but it sounded good at the time. So we put the food to one side, half finished, and decide to listen to some music. This is great. We let the rhythm and the melody waft over our awareness until, well, there's something else to do, I'm sure. Does any of that sound familiar? The mind is a fickle thing, jumping from this to that and back again, and it's not a faithful lover, that mind of ours. The Buddhists call that kind of sense attachment or clinging, and they would say it leads to suffering. But so much of our challenge resides in what is beyond or underneath our constant striving. This grasping and holding to what might satisfy us, it could be pleasures, it could be relationships, it could be our views about certain things, our rituals, our beliefs, it could be our understanding of ourselves. All of these that keep us in an awkward phase, like that phase of looking away from the notes of the piano music for me. It's that awkward phase of trying to live beyond the page. Living and moving through our lives, playing out our days, but unable to move deeper and beyond the boundaries we've imposed, and the jumping of our mind that has us going from one thing to the next. The words of the poet we heard earlier are so alluring, I find. Don't tell me how wonderful things will be someday. Show me you can risk being completely at peace, truly okay with the way things are right now in this moment and in the next and the next and the next. It's easier to write words like that than live them. But then again, that's the spiritual journey for you. Reading words that are easier to say than to live. Letting go is one of the spiritual practices shared in so many of the world's religions and spiritual traditions, but giving our worries up, giving our monkey minds a rest, the process of instructing ourselves in the art of not worrying about yesterday or tomorrow is anything but simple. I mean, just at this moment, some of you might be listening to my words, but others of you might be pulled by thoughts of lunch, someone you have to call later or text, what you have to pick up at the store on your way home. We're restless. We know that. Our minds wander. 5 billion years of evolution have ensured that. It's all well and good to just be here now, but our primate and our primal ancestors who did that, who were just right there in the moment, well, they got eaten. The ones who had an eye toward risks, who escaped and hunted and reproduced, and the ones who were not satisfied with the present moment, well, they were the ones who developed keen senses of desire and aversion and were the heirs of 5 billion years of noticing the distractions. So we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. So we have the luxury now of examining that, knowing that we're not going to be lunch for the next distraction. For us, knowing what's around the corner and being ready to fight or flee, probably not going to save our lives, maybe, but more likely in our suburban lives, it's more likely the mindset that's going to drive us mental than save our lives. Grasping and clinging are so comfortable for us because they seem like the antidote to fear and anxiety. And there's plenty of fear and anxiety in our lives and in our world right now. Those two uninvited guests bring souvenirs of the past and hidden agendas of the future. Fear tells you to look at yesterday and not make the same mistake again, and anxiety tells you you better look out for tomorrow. And holding on tight with white knuckles seems like the way to counteract those two unwelcome guests, fear and anxiety. But the spiritual life and tradition has taught us that the opposite just might be true. The spiritual practice of letting go has always been an exercise in dwelling in the present, in lessening the impact of those two intruders. So I guess we're down to the phrase live in the moment. That looks really nice as a Facebook post. Do I have one? There's one. It also reads well as a bumper sticker. It's also quite easy to write on the bathroom mirror as a mantra, but it's not quite that simple. If grasping and clinging isn't the way to battle fear and anxiety, then can't I just let it go and sing the Disney princess song? That's the picture I should have put up there. But left at that, letting it go and living in the moment is too simple. And it's a bit of a dangerous blanket statement, I'd say, because what if my present moment isn't so great? What if my present moment is a living hell? Often life is so cluttered with demands, to-do lists, stress. Worse, our present moment could be filled with violence, struggle, survival. Do I really want to let go into that? If that's my present, then I'm letting go into craziness and I become a nervous wreck. Letting go is a matter of intention, and the question is, what shall we let go into? Anna and Elsa didn't quite get into that in the movie, but I want to tell you about the Hindu sage Ramakrishna, who once said that the mind is like the mind is like raw fabric. It takes the color of the dye it's soaked in. Soak the mind in a quiet, relaxing environment, and it will become quiet and relaxed. Soak it in deadlines, fear, anger, and anxiety, and it will become crowded, fearful, and angry. It's the spiritual equivalent of you are what you eat. And that's why letting go isn't enough. Because the dye for our fabric might be toxic. If you're constantly letting go, you're not engaged. And engagement is necessary to get anything done, or to make any meaningful personal connection, or to make a difference in some area that I can. To borrow an idea from J. Michelson, what we need for the kind of urban, scheduled existence that we lead is more of an oscillation between letting go and sinking in. That I like. Doesn't work so good on a bumper sticker, but that's okay. It's that oscillation between letting go and sinking in that brings us to the wisdom shared in the telling of Jesus' interaction with 3 would-be disciples. I'll follow you, Master, but first let me do A, B, and C. And he says this great thing about, life is for living. So worry about life and not death. And then Jesus says one other thing. He says, no one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is well placed for the work of spiritual living. In other words, the best place to see the sacred, to help create heaven on earth, the best place to experience a sense of inner peace is with your hands to the plow, with your gaze on the tools that you need to live, with your eyes looking at what you're doing right now. Not the past, not turning back, not the future, with your mind and heart and body engaged in the work of moving forward now. And I think keeping your hands to the plow, I think that's a metaphor for this sinking in side of the equation. It's what prevents us from letting go all the time and failing to have any direction at all, any care or concern. Well, it's okay, I'm living in the moment. I can stay in bed all day long and do that. But recognizing that letting go also means focusing on the task at hand. Putting your hand to the plow means when you let go, what do you want to sink into? What's important to you? What value do you want your life to reverberate? As the poet says, what stories and lessons do you want your children's children to remember? What will be the plow that we put our hand to? And doing that will keep us well placed. I like this translation, to be well placed for the spiritual life. Doing this keeps us well placed to see so many things, to see the beauty that surrounds us, not letting anyone or anything distract us from the direct engagement with the present newness and its opportunities. When we look back, that's the past luring us into old fears, well-rehearsed regrets, because we're good at telling those stories over and over again, or ancient beliefs about not being good enough. And we don't look forward either too far and borrow worries from tomorrow. Those would be good things to stop grasping. It's this oscillation between letting go and sinking in. I mean, let's be honest. We can't just let go and coerce peace to be appearing in us. As much as we can sit at a piano or in front of a canvas and will the creation of a masterpiece. But we can practice with each other. We can practice so as to create the circumstances wherein it's more and more possible for something new to happen. What we can do is take this oscillation seriously, letting go of the grasping and taking heed of one thing, the tool we need at the moment. What will we sink into? And it doesn't need to be huge either. I mean, it could be as simple as that one person to talk to at this very moment, or the one volunteer job that will energize me, or the one project that will bring me joy. I want to leave the last word to the 20th century writer and Christian theologian Paul Tillich. He says this: "Nothing is more surprising than the rise of the new within ourselves. We don't foresee or observe its growth. We don't try to produce it by the strength of our will, by the power of our emotion, or by the clarity of our intellect. On the contrary, we feel that by trying to produce it, we prevent its coming. By trying, we would produce the old in the power of the old, but not the new in the power of the new. The new being born in us happens when we least believe in it. It appears in remote corners of our souls which we have neglected for a long time. It opens up deep levels of our personality which had been shut out by old decisions and old exclusions. It shows a way where there was no way before. And suddenly we notice it within us, like a sunrise. The new which we sought and longed for comes to us in the moment in which we lose hope of ever finding it. That is the first thing we must say about the new. It appears when and where it chooses. We cannot force it and we cannot calculate it. In fact, readiness is the only condition for it." My friends, as we practice this spiritual journey together, I could say Let's practice being ready for something new in us. As we let go and sink into the newness of all the present and future holds for us. And as we work and support one another on that journey, may it happen for us in whatever ways. And may it be so in so many ways that there are. Amen. We pray for peace in our world in this coming week, peace and understanding, particularly in places where people gather, which is everywhere. And we know that we go with a spirit of that peace as we let go of all from our past that hinders us, as we reject the anxiety of the future that stands in our way, and as we let go and sink into what is truly important. May we love, may we understand, may we be at peace. And so we go.